One issue, 2 points of view. Agora.
Just a few weeks after a fragile ceasefire in Gaza, and with the country on the brink of a general election, the focus in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem is on Israel's national unity. Euronews met two intellectuals at the heart of the debate. Yossi Klein Halevi is a writer and journalist, known not only for his religious commitments, but also for his work towards an Arab-Israeli dialogue. He's one of the advocates for Operation Cast Lead in Gaza. Gideon Levy sparked energetic debate with his anti-war editorials in the left-wing daily newspaper Haaretz. Amid the differing views on the impact of events in Gaza, the state of Israeli society and the upcoming election, there was one unifying factor: a sense of disquiet.
I think that Israel went to its most brutal war ever against a helpless population which is surrounded by a fence. I think the first war in history that a population which is surrounded by a fence is attacked in such a brutal way. I think this war was unnecessary from the beginning. Hamas is stronger today than before this war. I think the main purpose of this war was domestic purpose, to convince the Israelis that we are doing something to rehabilitate the power of the IDF, of the Israeli Defense Forces after Lebanon. Both are irrelevant and immoral arguments to go for war.
The general feeling among most Israelis, left, right, or center, and by left I mean mainstream left, is that if anything, we waited too long. And had we responded to the first rocket attack that came over the border after Israel withdrew to the 1967 line in 2005, and had we made clear to Hamas that there was a zero-tolerance policy for any act of aggression against civilian Israel, I think that we might not have come to the point where we needed to send the Israeli army back into Gaza.
I think something was broken in this war. We never faced such level of blindness to the suffer of the other. We never faced such media which was so one-sided, serving really as a propaganda machine more than anything else. And I think that morally, the Israeli society is in a very bad condition. Being so indifferent to such atrocities, this is a very bad bad sign for the future.
One of the things that I've noticed and worried about is growing hatred among young Israeli Jews for Palestinians. And this is relatively new. And it's a result of the years of suicide bombings, and the soldiers who went into Gaza, our 18 and 19-year-olds, grew up during the period of the suicide bombings here. And I worry about the hatred on both sides. I certainly worry about the intensification of hatred among Palestinians. And don't forget, though, that Hamas's education, Hamas is raising a generation of Palestinian children in Gaza on the religion of hate.
But how will the Gaza offensive change Israel's stance on the international stage? From demonstrations of support to accusations of war crimes, reactions from overseas have incited a shared anger, albeit for quite different reasons.
There are two levels of the international reaction. One is the politicians. They all support Israel. All the European leaders came here in a demonstration of support to Israel, did not bother to go to Gaza, none of them, except of Ban Ki-moon. Nobody went to Gaza, which was the minimum, at least to see what Israel had done there. But there is the public opinion who saw the pictures, who saw the atrocities, and I'm sure who has very serious thoughts about the state of Israel and the way it behaves. A state that does not obey decisions of the international community and does not act according to the international law.
I think that those accusations are outrageous. I think that they wrench this war out of its context. I am stuck as an occupier in the West Bank because if I do withdraw and I get terrorism as I pull back, the international community won't allow me to defend Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. And that means that the political implications of the international community's criticism of Israel, demonization of Israel, is that it hardens Israeli political attitudes and makes it much more difficult for people like me to justify further withdrawal.
Europe could have raised its voice. Europe can also make the Israelis pay for the occupation and pay for the atrocities, at least to feel less comfortable with themselves. The Israelis feel very comfortable with themselves, even after this war. Europe could have put them a mirror. Europe could say, we don't tolerate it. Europe could say, you'll have to pay a price for this, each of you. But Europe will not do it, because Europe is quite paralyzed for historic reasons and others.
Europe, over the years, has reinforced the worst rejectionist instincts on the part of the Palestinians. Instead of speaking to the Palestinians, instead of telling the Palestinians the truth, you, the Palestinians, need to make some kind of gesture, besides sending rockets over the border. Send a gesture to Israel that will convince them that in exchange for making themselves vulnerable territorially, going back to borders that are 8 miles wide, that we will have a chance of getting peace in return for land. Somehow, enlightened Europe missed all of that. And it frankly makes Israelis crazy.
And against such a backdrop, the two commentators have something of a jaundiced view of the elections on February the 10th.
It doesn't matter anymore because the differences between the candidates are minor, if at all. Barak and Livni, who are supposed to be the moderates, they are now the biggest extremists. The rhetoric of Netanyahu is more extremist, but the deeds of Livni and Barak and Olmert are much worse. Netanyahu never went for war. So there is no difference between them. And finally, I guess Netanyahu will be elected. And the reason is quite a horrific one, because most of the Israelis did not have enough of this war. They wanted more.
I mean, I'm a journalist, and I can't imagine covering these elections. I just can't imagine what that'll be like. My head is so much not into Tzipi and Bibi, and I just couldn't care less at this point. I think most Israelis couldn't care less. It's such a collection of uninspired leadership. And, we look at Barack Obama, and we just have Obama envy here. I mean, is this the best we can do?